Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to hear a joke? I don't know how many videos I've done. I've never made a backgammon joke before, but I'm going to make one now, and it's this. Proverb 19 from Mitchie is a builder cannot work with only one dice. And what he means by that is you cannot make a point in your home board with only one dice. You need to use both rolls to kind of come in and cover up and make your point. Um, but the joke is this. Uh, that is any grammatic pedants among you will spot that that's actually grammatically incorrect. A builder cannot work with only one dice. The word dice is a plural. What Mitchie should have said is a builder cannot work with only one die, because the singular is a die. So my question is this, ladies and gentlemen: why is it that Mitchie doesn't use the word die and talks about only one dice instead? And the answer is, wait for it, because Mitchie has a never say die attitude to backgammon. That's the first and probably the only joke you'll be glad to hear I will ever tell in this opening concept series, but I just thought I'd share it with you now. I think it's funny. Mitchie thinks it's funny. But let's get on to what the purpose of this proverb is. It's this. So if you look down the bottom there, as usual, we're white, we're bearing into the bottom right, and we have a lovely, on our 9 point and our 10 point, we have builders, those checkers that we can use to make another point. And they can be very effective. But if we had a check on the bar, we wouldn't be able to make another point because, if black had hit us and we had a check on the bar, we wouldn't be able to make that other point because we'd be able to bring a checker into our home board, but we wouldn't be able to cover it with another point. So we're really threatening there, and what black would like to do is to stop us being that threatening and only let us use half our roll. So there was a comment that Mitchie makes in this section of the book that it really stood out for me, which is this: if you cannot use your builders to make new points, then these builders just turn into blots, and blots are vulnerable. So it's great having those checkers there as builders, but if we don't use them, well, then they're blots just waiting to be hit. So I'm going to divide this video into two sections. Now, Mitchie's chapter, I have to admit, is it's a mishmash of kind of back and forth. For me, I just to get it right in my own head, I've put it into two parts to this. One is preserving our own builders. So we look at this, we're attacking, we look at it from our point of view, and later we look at it from when our opponent's attacking. So when we're attacking, we want to make sure that we preserve our own builders. And there's a phrase that I didn't get from Mitchie, but very often it's American commentators seem to say this. It's a bad idea to leave blots on both sides of the board. It leaves us too vulnerable. So here's a situation that Mitchie gives where we've rolled in a 4 and a 1. Now we know that a builder on our 9 point is the most valuable builder we can have. So we could come in with the 4, come off the bar there with the 4, and then nudge that blot we have down in the bottom left there, forward 1. Now we've put that builder on the most valuable point for building, which is the 9 point. Surely that's good. But no. Remember the thing about not leaving blots on both sides of the board? If our opponent has any cop on at all, and obviously we're going to be playing some good opponents, they will use one of their checkers up the top to hit us. They have to. They'll play a temper roll against us and hit us. And suddenly that gives them a chance to come out from their back checkers and maybe hit that blot down the bottom left quadrant as well. So suddenly, instead of being a good thing, having builders on both sides of the board, we're vulnerable. So let's just put that back and start again. What if instead of coming in with the 4, we come in with the 1? Now we're nice and safe and tidy at the back, and we can bring the 4 down to the midpoint, and now we've got 2 builders. And we could get hit. Our opponent could roll an 8 or a 9 and hit us. Look, these things happen. But we're much less vulnerable in this position, and hopefully we'll have those builders there to use in the next go. And it's quite a significant mistake to do the other one. Here's another situation. Same thing again. We want to just make sure that we don't leave blots on both sides of the board. So we come in with the 2. We have to come off the bar with the 2. How do we play the 3? And again, if you think about it, we could play another builder down, a checker down from the 13 to the 10 point. We've got another builder there with kind of great flexibility. But just have a look at that position. And there's a question that, based on what Mitchie said, I've kind of started to ask myself, do we have a builder there which is good and can be used productively? Or do we have a blot there that's going to be vulnerable? And if you look at this position here, up the top right, we have two blots there, and black has potential to hit us there, up the top right. Down the bottom left, again, the two blots, black rolls an 8 or a 9 or a 10, and they hit us there. So we've just given black so many opportunities there to hit us. So that's not the right thing to do. Instead, we've come in with the 2. We just tidy things up with playing 11 to 8. Yeah, it's not kind of as kind of flamboyantly there as a point, as a checker to be able to use to build every single point going. But it's so much tighter. We could get hit in the top right, but if we do, we're not going to be hitting the problem with leaving blots on both sides of the board is if we're hitting one side, we're very often going to be hitting both sides. And we have that builder now on the 8 point is still there, usable in the next go. It's actually in a more advanced position that's more useful, but it's also safer. And that's the correct position. So you're going to do 2 test yourself exams in this. We're actually going to do 3 papers. We'll come back to that. 2 test yourself times. And so paper 1 is when we are attacking and we're trying to look after our own builders. And how would you play a 5-3 here? If you want to pause and unpause, assuming you have kind of paused and unpaused, well, the 5 is easy. 5 off the bar. We're going to hit black's blot there on their 5 point. That's brilliant. That's an ideal move. But how do you play the 3? And there's a tendency to say, well, look, we play down 13 to 10, bring a builder down, happy days. But again, look what's happened to our blots. We have blots now on both sides of the board, up the top right and the bottom left. Black has to come in from the bar, but having come in from the bar, they're going to definitely try and hit us. They'll hit us with a 1, a 3, a 4, a 5, possibly even they can down the bottom they can hit us with something in a 6 and hit our blot in the 10 point. They're very, very likely to hit us, and suddenly that builder that we think is so great in our 10 point is a liability. So instead, that we keep asking the question: is it a builder or a blot? In that situation, risk is it's a more of a blot. So when we come in with the 5 this time, rather than coming down with the 13 to 10, we put that back and we just nudge forward and have at least our blots on the same side of the board. So if we are hit, if one of those is hit, our black isn't going to be able to hit both of them because that proverb, you cannot use one dice to make a point. They've got to use half their roll to come in from the bar. They might roll double 1s or double 3s or something, but it's not likely. Instead, it's far more likely that they're going to come in from the bar and not want to hit us up the top there because that leaves them vulnerable with blots everywhere, and we're just safer that way. Now, the second part and most of Mitchie's chapter, he's not really worried about us protecting our builders. He's saying when our opponent has loads of builders, we need to make it difficult for them to use them. So, the proverb talks about you cannot make a point with only one dice. Or use a builder with only one dice. So we want to try and stop our opponent using their builders, and the remaining questions are on that basis. So this isn't one you'll know from the start. You'll know when you roll a 4-1 at the start and our opponent is split at the back, where we're going to kind of come forward with the 4 and the 1 and do a double hit. But here's another way of looking at it that Mitchie says that's kind of why we do this. Look up the top. Black's position up the top. They've got the best builder on the 9 point. The 9 point is the best builder, and they've got a builder on that. If we don't hit them, they're likely to have. They have loads of different rolls that'll combine very well together and make a point in our home board. By hitting them, we deprive them of not just half a roll. We're lucky enough to be able to deprive them of their entire roll here, and suddenly their blot up in the 9 point is really not that threatening at all. In fact, we might be able to come out and nick it. So that's why he just said that's why we do that move with the 6-2 and the 2-1. But here's a different situation where instead of rolling a 4-1, we've rolled a 4-3, and we're kind of look at this black. Now black's the one who's left blots on both sides of the board, and we need to kind of stop them with that. And we need to stop them using their builders. They've said nice position, the most useful builder up in the top of the board. We need to deprive them of the chance to use this. So we've got to hit them somehow, and we can hit with the 4. So we hit with the 4, and we just come out with the 3. You might think it is a bit risky. The tempo, what we're doing there is the tempo hit down the bottom. It is risky, but it's better than allowing black to start, better than being too passive and allowing black to just start dominating our home board. And for that reason, it's quite a significant error not to play that move. Here's another situation. Again, we've rolled double sixes. And I think with double sixes, we definitely bring two down from the midfield. Probably, if black wasn't threatening, we'd bring two more down to the midfield. Is probably the best move. Or maybe we'd bring one more down and advance the rearmost checker. There's a range of things you can do with double sixes. But look up the top there. Black has beautiful builders. They have so much scope. There's a whole range of roles that will make great points in their home board. We will need to stop them doing that. We can stop them by only allowing them have half a roll. So we've brought two of those checkers down from the 13 to 7 point. We keep them going and make our 1 point, putting black on the bar. And the real attraction of this, black's going to get out 32 out of 36 times. But they'll get out with one of their rolls, and then their other roll is utterly they might be able to make a point in their outfield, but they don't have the opportunity to make a point in their home board, because they'll be able to get one checker in, but without doublets, they won't be able to cover that checker. Here's another example here, where I think we, 5-2, most intermediate players, well, this is a safe move here. You're going to bring the 2 down from the 13 to 11, and then the 5 down from 13 to 8. Nice and tidy. We're not leaving a lot of shots. Our rearmost checker that blocks at the top right is pretty safe there for now, and we don't want to advance too much. Surely that's the move. However, look again at the top. Black is so poised. They have 12 checkers there ready just to start making points in their home board and to block us in. So we've got to do something to stop them doing that. So instead of bringing the checker down from 13 to 8, we play 6 to 1, hit black. We take the risk of being hit back. There's pretty much a 1 in 3 chance of hitting us back. And if we're hit back, we've ammunition to try and make an anchor in our opponent's home board. But if we're not hit back, at least black is delayed trying to get back in, and they can't make a point in their home board because we've taken half their roll. And that's the situation there. Here's another situation Mitchie gives. I'm kind of going through all Mitchie's positions. I looked at this and I thought, well, look, there's clearly here, lovely option here. We can play if those 3 checkers in our 8 point. If we play one of them in with the 5 and then cover it with the 2, we've made another point in our home board. We've much the stronger home board. That's got to be good, isn't it? That's what I instantly thought was the right thing to do. But it's a blunder. And it's a blunder because of this. Look up the top. Look at black. Black has 13 checkers there, just brimming over. They look like, I don't know what, the marble's about to collapse over. Some people talk about an avalanche. Dan Rivera talks about an avalanche about to land on her head. Black is going to make beautiful points in their home board very, very quickly. And there's nothing we can do about it. Except there is something we can do about it. So because when we come in with the 5, if instead of covering that, we hit black's checker on the 1 point, we change everything. Because now black has to use half the roll to come in, and now they can't make a point in their home board. Well, again, double ones would be beautiful for them. But apart from that, they cannot make a point in their home board without doublets because we've stolen half their roll. And that's the correct move. So I said there'd be a second test question. And this time, the first test question was about protecting our own builders. This one is about obstructing our opponent's builders. Let's look at this situation here. And I have to say, this was one, when I looked at Mitchie's position here, I just I got it completely wrong. So if you want to pause, and assuming you've unpaused, well, I looked at this, and I suppose what I was guilty of was not thinking about the proverbs. And I thought, well, look, we can make a great broken 6 prime here. So we can come down, look at our checkers on the top left there in the midpoint, bring one of them down, another down, and nudge them forward on again. We've made a lovely blocking point there. Broken 6 prime down the bottom. We're blocking the 2 black checkers in. That has to be right. I think it's a 236 millipoint blunder, what I did there. So let's put them back and see, well, what else could you do? Well, you could make your 5 point, the golden point, playing 2 checkers in from the 8 to the 5, and then maybe 2 down from the 13. Now we've made 4 points in our home board, a lovely block going on there, and another good point, outfield point. That must be right. But no, that too is a blunder. Let's just put those checkers back for a second. Think about this topic. Think about the chapter. Think about stopping black making builders. We said that you cannot use builders to make a point with only one roll of the dice. You need to use both dice rolls. So up the top there, black would love 2 rolls of the dice. They're nearly certainly going to make another point. They could get a 6 and a 4 and make a point on our 2 point and a point on their 2 point in our head, as it's called. So we've got to stop them, and we do this by coming in as before with 8 to 5, but keeping going and putting one of black checkers in the bar. They might dance, but that's not really why we have them there. The reason we have them there is half their role is going to be spent escaping, and that means they can't make a point in their home board. They can't make another blocking point, and that's the reason for this. So, and therefore 8-2. Look at this. Everything else is a blunder, including my 13 to 7, which is down the 4th choice there, 236 millipoint blunder. So, if like me you made utter balls of that test, well, let's try and do it again. It's time to resit the test on the same theme. So this is the final position that I'm going to show you that Mitchie gave. We roll a 6 and a 2. Do you want to pause? And assuming you've unpaused, a 6 and a 2, well, there's kind of an obvious way to play this that's wrong. You could come down 13 to 7, look at the top left, use one of those checkers with the 6, cover it with the 2. We've made a 5 point prime. Surely to God that is the right thing to do. The answer is no, because up the top there, black has loads of builders and is just dying to use them, but all of them. And in particular, the significant one actually is the blot on their 11 point up in the top left, the single black checker up there in the top left. That's the key to this, because it just adds so much flexibility to what they want to do. So if you said that, I'm sorry, that's a blunder. What we should do is use the 6 to come in and hit one of black's checkers. And now black's going to have a shot at us there, so we might as well make them pay dearly for that shot by hitting the other black checker as well. We've deprived them of their entire roll, and yes, as I always say, we could be hit back, but if we're hit back, we're not. It's not fatal, and at least we have a chance of making an anchor and stopping black making points in their home board. And as you can see, a blunder to make the 5 point prime. But interestingly, it's that checker the black's checker up in the top left there, the blot on their 11 point, the single black checker up the top left. That's the key to it, because it gives them, there's so many different numbers that kind of work well as a result of that being there. If I take that and move it forward 3 places onto its 8 point, like that changes everything, because black has less variety of builders, less diversity of numbers that will work for it. And now making the 7 point is the correct move, and the others is an error. So just an interesting way to end. I suppose the purpose of this chapter, just to repeat again, is just to be conscious that you need 2 rolls of the dice to bring checkers in to make a point on your home board. And when we're playing with good builders, we need to protect them. Don't leave blots on both sides of the board. When our opponent has good builders, we need to try to disrupt them by hitting them somehow to deprive them of half a roll. And I suppose that's the nub of this chapter.